Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Canon Creative Studio here at Sundance Film Festival. You know, we got some seats that are open still in the front row. We promise not to bite anyone brave enough to come and sit. And absolutely no one is taking us up on it. Okay, great, cool. So welcome, everyone. My name is Jay Holden. I'm an independent director and producer. I am also the contributing technical editor for American Cinematographer magazine and an associate member of the ASC, and it's my honor to host this panel here today on independent film and the aesthetic of independent film with three extraordinary cinematographers. And we're going to start all the way at the end of the row with Ms. Mia Coffi Henry, who is an independent cinematographer and also the head of graduate cinematography at NYU. Her project here. Wow, you got a lot of New York fans in the room.
What up, New York?
Her project here at the festival is Invisible Beauty. Next to her is Greta Zozula. I did say it right. Who is a winner of the Cinematography Award at the Tribeca Film Festival for a film called Materna. And her film premiered last night, Fairyland, here at the festival. And then immediately to my left is Mr. Manuel Billeter, cinematographer, who you will know from his work on shows like The Gilded Age, Jessica Jones, Inventing Anna, Luke Cage. And he's just taken on his first independent feature, which will premiere tonight, Cat Person. Now I can put my notes away. And thank you, all three of you, for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
So, my pleasure. It's easy for me. Let's start a little bit with just the definition of independent film. Like something we throw around a lot, right? Like, what does that mean? What is independent to you? And well, this was kind of a stretch for you to step away from large production television to a small feature film. What does that mean to you?
Well, I actually started out in independent film production. I was, focus puller, and I was a camera operator. Before then, got sucked into the, TV land, and what it meant to me, working on independent films is first of all, to learn a lot about the craft. The smaller production has a much more intimate feel. It also feels like that decisions, are made, on the ground, on set, a lot more than they were subsequently, when I got into, TV production, where everything seems to be controlled from the outside much more than on independent productions. You do have more resources, that's for sure. There's more money to be thrown around, but if you tell me what independent means, I think yes, it's just like a smaller circle of people that are probably creatively a bit more challenged because lack of resources. Oftentimes, you have to think on your feet all the time.
Greta, how about yourself?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pretty broad question, like independent. You know, like what defines independent? So I worked on like micro budget films, and I've worked on films that are a little bit bigger, and you know, when it's a tough one, I think. But there is this sort of, and my whole world is independent for the most part. That's where I also started as a camera assistant, and it was this world where I felt like I could learn, and it was a safe place, and I felt like I had really great teachers. So there's a responsibility of that as a cinematographer, and being able to sort of provide that as well. But there's this like collaboration with independent film that feels very safe, and that it's just the collaboration aspect of it. Like you have like an intimate relationship with the director, but also with your gaffer, your key grip, your ACs, and I love that. I love that process, and everyone coming in and being passionate together and feeling included and a part of the process. That's what I really love about it.
What is independent? I think we're trying to redefine that every year at Sundance, right? What counts as an independent film? What is something? Is it budget? Is it unknowns? Is it new voices? For me, what I like to think that independent filmmaking is story-driven filmmaking, films that are driven by story choices rather than commercial choices. What I think independent filmmaking actually means is creative problem solving and trying to do the most with the least, and still get your story across and tell the story just as best as you can with the resources that you have. Whether an independent film is a $250,000 budget or a $10 million budget can vary greatly, but both things can feel small when you're in them, sadly.
I thought it was very interesting. In my career, a long time ago as a cameraman, it was mostly film for me, and then I moved into digital and pretty much never looked back. And as a producer, I've done pretty much everything digital. And when I think about independent, I don't really relate that to shooting film. There's a lot of conversation going on.
Oi, shut it down back there.
Well played, well played.
Take it on the street if you want to talk. Just kidding, come listen to us.
See, you could totally tell she's a teacher.
Or a mother, one of the two. Both. Or a DP, come on, we're bossy.
Well played. But it was fascinating to me that two of you worked with film on relatively small productions. Mia, yours was entirely on film, and Greta, yours was about half on film. So I want to talk about that a little bit, and the return to shooting film, because we kind of stopped for a while, and what sort of limitations or not that's brought to your production. Mia, let me start with you.
Well, the film I shot was at Sundance in 2021. That was all on 16 millimeter, and that was really, it was based on a short that was also shot on 16 in 2015. We were here, and so we knew going into it that was a really big piece of the aesthetic, and the producers were sold on that as the look. It was also a period piece in 1987, so we knew if we were going to shoot that film, it had to be on film. I really love film. I teach it. I'm very passionate about keeping it in the curriculum at NYU in the grad program, and I think it's just an amazing learning tool. I'm constantly leaning into what is good about film and trying not to push it somewhere it's not supposed to be. You know, I'm not gonna try and get 15 minutes out of a 10-minute magazine. I know I have a limited amount of time. The same way I know I'm probably gonna have to light if I wanna shoot at night. And so I try and use it for what it's beautiful at, which is texture, which is color, which is depth in the image, and then also just the workflow. I think you have to really plan when you're shooting on film, and that can only help you in an independent film because you don't have the luxury of a lot of schedule and resources. So the more you can kind of pre-visualize the film, understand the needs of the story, the more you can show up on set and feel free to kind of deviate from the plan because you know what you're there to do. So I feel like film, everybody has to really be paying attention. There's no jumping in the middle of the frame or keep the camera rolling, let's go for another one, which I really like. It seems to make being on set really serious. And then just from a cinematographer's point of view, my directors really have to trust me. You know, people are sitting back at Video Village, they're not getting what the image is, they're getting some darker, grainier version of it, and they have to really believe that I know what I'm doing and that I know how to expose, and the gaffer and I have checked our light meters to make sure we're all on the same page, because you know, when you're an independent film, you don't get dailies back the next day. You have to, you're surprised a week later by, shit, all right, it really worked out. That nighttime exterior with a car stunt was worth it on film. And so I feel like when I have the trust of my director and the producers and the team around me, I feel like I really want to live up to that and try and do my best work.
You said pretty much all of it. No, it's good. It's good. It's so true about the trust, because you start with that. You start with trust from the very beginning, and you start organized, and there is a different workflow when you're working on film. I would say that it's never been the wrong choice. Like it's always felt like the right choice. I've done 2 projects on film. 2 film or features, but there's also this, you know, talking to like crew and you get dailies back a couple days later. There's sort of this magic to that as well, where, you know, not everyone is seeing it, and there is a lot of trust. But then when they do see it, there's this like new excitement that comes from that, and that's really exciting. But I wouldn't be afraid of shooting film. I don't think that it brings like extra complications. Like I think you said most of it, where it's like you have to be organized and you have to know why you're shooting film. And I think it should be, there should be a reason behind it. I wouldn't just shoot it to shoot it. Like aesthetically, there should be a point behind it. But that. I don't think it adds complications necessarily.
Did you do your night work digital on this film?
No.
It was all film?
It was all film.
Oh, amazing.
Excellent question.
Only one night exterior, though. Which is, that's the other thing. We used it for a 70s portion of the film, and our approach to the visuals was there's a simplicity to it, and also like our night exterior, we weren't going for some giant scope for the night exterior. It was very intimate, and you didn't overcomplicate it. That's the other thing. It's like we use 16 for the texture and to sort of put us in a time and place, but knowing that we're on a budget, knowing that we're on time restrictions, I didn't, try to overcomplicate it at all. It's like approaching it as simply as possible, and as straightforward as possible.
Manuel, what inspired you to take a step from a huge show like The Gilded Age into a much smaller independent feature?
Well, I think it's always good to change direction once in a while, to not keep doing the same thing over and over and over again. I mean, already in a way, wanting to work on something like The Gilded Age was quite a departure for me, because it was my first a period piece. It was my first really big budget production. And I just didn't want to be, after spending maybe too many years in the Marvel Netflix world, I just didn't want to be pigeonholed as the guy who shoots in dark alleys and on rooftops at night all the time. So I just wanted to show that, or to get a chance at lighting bright luscious palace and filming tea parties as well, and not always and just straight on conversations, dramatic conversations, rather than always having a stunt or gunfire or explosions, car crashes and things like that. After a while, it just gets a little bit tedious. Having to do the same thing over and over and over again, and so that's my my motto anyway. I think that in order to stay creative, you just have to change direction often. Otherwise, you just fall into a tedious routine, and you kind of lose the joy and the passion for the work that you're doing, and then it will show as well. But I always wanted to, come back to the independent film world and or feature film world. That's the way I kind of like grew up in this. That's what fascinates me more. It's like just like a standalone piece rather than episodic. Nothing wrong with episodic, but another thing is that like you're done. You kind of like get into. You get aboard the submarine for 9 months, and then you come back out, and life in the meantime has just went on, but you were in a submarine somewhere. It feels very very much like that sometimes. Having something shorter as well, and having something where you have an intimate relationship, collaboration with the director, with the crew. It's not a crew of hundreds; it's a crew of 25. Then it just feels more like family, and that's something that I had been missing. But again, I'm missing that. It's also a step up. It was a different sort of challenge as well. So going from independent features. Also, I was when I was working on independent features, I was a camera operator. I was a camera assistant. The last time I was here at the Sundance 16 years ago, I had 3 features as an operator, and I'm actually super excited to be back. A lot grayer, and with a feature as a DP.
Greta, you brought up kind of the same subject, which is on these smaller films, you become a family with your crew. You have a much more intimate connection with them, and that's something that's really deeply important to you.
Yeah, it is. I think it's just so important. These projects they're asking a lot of everybody, and they're deeply personal. Most times they're first-time director or a director-writer who's been living with this project for years and years and years. This film, was 8 years in the making. They're coming into it, having lived with it for so long and caring so much. And of course, when I first meet with a director, we want to connect on that level. We want to connect on a level where we're on the same page and we care about it the same way, and we're passionate about it the same way. And the same goes for the crew. So often we shoot on location and I'm meeting new crew for the first time. This film, every single one was the first. I'd never worked with any of them before, and new relationships. And is starting that, you want to be really open and honest, and like, this is what we're working with, and this is what we want to do, and it's ambitious, but we care a lot, and we care a lot about the story. And if you do as well, like, you care about the script, and there's something in it that inspires you, and you want to go on this creative journey with me, then let's do it. And then I give them the same respect in, bring your ideas, let's collaborate, let's be creative together and make this a group effort, and like, it really is a family. And by the end of this film, like, we're so close, and we're still very close, and I can't wait to work with so many of them again. And we're just, continually growing, and hopefully we'll do the next project together.
I wholeheartedly agree with everything you just said. It's so important to me to make that kind of bond with your crew, especially on smaller productions, and to have that kind of energy between them. Go ahead.
Well, that's also how you get the best out of each crew member. By respecting them, by knowing them, by letting them speak up and be a part of it, and make suggestions. Because we benefit a lot from the collaboration of all the departments together. So I think being heard like that and being appreciated goes a long way.
Yeah, because you are asking a lot. Like, we know this is going to be hard, and it's just that respect. I care so much about it, and just making sure that everyone feels that they're really being heard, and that we're all a part of this process, and that this is their film too, and they're so valuable. Like, my camera department, I asked them, we did 2 formats, and first up, I was just like, I know this is a lot. Like, I know this is sort of asking the world of a pretty small camera team. And, I wanted them to be honest. I wanted the first assistant to be very honest with me about if it was doable, if it was realistic, and not just assume and just be like, this is what we're gonna do, and that was part of the process too.
Mia, you come into this with a little bit of a different perspective as a teacher. Does that play a role into how you work with your crews?
Working with my crews, not quite as much, although I love to mentor people, and I love to give people opportunities and to ask questions and learn in the moment. Of course, there's those times when someone sidles up next to you and they're like, hey, why are you shooting that way? And you're just like, I can't answer this right now. Find me at lunch, or find me at breakfast tomorrow, even better when I'm fresh. So I feel like that's really important to me. I think that there's so much historically in the film industry that's been about gatekeeping, especially in cinematography. Again, that's kind of the magic of shooting film, is that I'm the only person who sees what the exposure is. But I think people have used that to hold on to their knowledge in the past, and not kind of give their tips and tidbits to people because that was their calling card. That was the way that they were able to kind of maintain their status in the industry. I think that as film has become more democratized, as everybody can pick up a camera and feels free to pick up a camera and call themselves a cinematographer or a photographer, there's a little bit of a difference in kind of having the spirit of a cinematographer and wanting to really learn what sets you apart as a storyteller and not just a content creator or an image maker. And so I'm always looking for people who are interested in having those kinds of conversations, philosophically, kind of tips and practically speaking, but also in the why of what we do, the need that we all have to frame stories from a certain perspective. So that part of it is really important to me. And I'm always trying to recognize that in folks and bring them on my crews. And I'm in Local 600 as a cinematographer. There are 76 Black women in Local 600, and out of 10,000 plus members. There are 4 of them rated as cinematographers. I'm the only one outside of LA. I take that responsibility very seriously to make sure that those numbers are going up, and they do go up every day. But the majority of those members are utilities, are loaders, are just starting out as second ACs. Many of them have no idea what a cinematographer does, how to prep a project, how to talk to a director, how to get a producer to hire them, even if they want to be cinematographers. So I work with a group called 600 Black Women, and we're trying to make people know that what the numbers look like in the industry, and say, you know, hire Black, hire women, mentor folks, open the doors of your rental houses and let them come in and test equipment, try out lenses, give discounts, all of that stuff, because that's the only way we can get people to kind of level up creatively, is if we give them access to the knowledge, the gear, all of that. So I don't know what your question was, but everybody's on my crew. Everybody's on my crew. If you wanna be a storyteller, like, you can let's be on the crew. Let's all be a film family. Of course, working on independent film, you get very close with people, and it's wonderful. And you kind of create that family, you create that bond. And I love when crews get to come here to the festival with a film, and you're not just meeting the actors and the director, but you're also meeting the dolly grip and the second AC and the makeup artist. I love that. I love that everybody feels ownership in a film and independent filmmaking.
Didn't matter what the question was. That was very important conversations to have, and thank you for that. And it derailed me. Where the hell am I going to go now?
That's what I'm here to do. I'm
here to
derail.
Perfect. Wonderful. This is actually your film here, Invisible Beauty, is kind of a departure for you as well. You normally shoot independent features or narrative features, and this is a documentary. You want to talk about your choice of why to do that?
Yeah, I think it's along the same sort of ethical lines that I have about sort of telling stories of undersung voices. Beth Ann Hardison, who the film is about, she's the subject as well as the co-director of the film. She's an absolute powerhouse in the fashion industry. Started out in the 60s and 70s as one of the first Black women to walk a runway. To walk it, not just walk it, but walk it with so much style. She went on to be the first Black woman to own her own modeling agency and broke a ton of amazing talents. She kind of disappeared for a while and got a call. She left New York, she left the country. She got a call that the runways were too white. And can she come back and do something about it? And so she and a group of models, who we all know their faces and their names, they risked their jobs and their sort of livelihoods to take out full-page ads in newspapers around the world, calling out designers who refused, not just didn't think about diversity, but refused to work with black and brown models. And we would not have the diversity in the industry today if it wasn't for this singular woman, Beth Ann Hardison, making changes and holding the industry's feet to the fire to make sure that change has been really sustainable and is sustained throughout the decades now. She's been doing this for decades. So she's here, we're celebrating her at Sundance this year. She loves a party. So if you see her on the street, she's usually wearing a fun hat, and I couldn't turn down the job, because once I met her, I felt like her life's work was also my life's work, and I didn't even know it. We had a bunch of strange coincidences and connections, and I sort of said, you know, I don't shoot documentaries. I don't even know where to begin. And they said, that's okay, because we're really looking for somebody who is telling a story cinematically and has a cinematic eye, and you know, we want to do it with you. And so I was like, all right, game on then, let's go. And it was a really fun experience. It's nice to challenge yourself. You know, we're talking about challenging yourself between features and TV. I think genre switching, it only helps us grow. I'm going to take lessons I learned from that project into my narrative world, and as I brought my narrative eye to this film. It premieres tonight, right after this.
So anybody who knows me knows I'm a bit of a tech nerd. So I'm going to transition really awkwardly into talking about some technology. There was no smooth way to make that segue. Manuel, for you were talking about sort of a discovery, or more of, not necessarily a discovery, but more of the importance of LED lighting, battery-operated LED lighting, the limited footprint of that technology, and how it freed you up in this particular project, if you want to address thoughts on that.
Right, yeah, no, I mean, it's been, I can't imagine working without LED lights anymore. I mean, you know, there's different instruments that do different things. And I think that LED has definitely the most versatility in terms of what you can do with it, and also how to set it up and how to control it. The technology, I mean, at the beginning, LED was really not very beautiful. It was not, it wasn't rendering, colors very nicely, or skin tones, or it was always a little flawed. But I think ever since now, the industry has done leaps and bounds in color accuracy and also like different sorts of output, like harder light, stronger light, or wider panels, softer panels, and all the accoutrements that come with it. Just the versatility is quite amazing. Also, for this project Cat Person that I did, I mean, there was the only thing that I didn't, where I kind of stood my ground in terms of crewing up. There was we had so many different locations and so many different scenes. I mean, I think it was like a 120 page script. It had 136 scenes in it. So it has, some of them got dropped, as we do, just trying to be realistic in what can be achieved in a short amount of time. But there were still a lot of scenes left over, a lot of different locations where, some locations we just had like one shot to do. We had these imaginations of the main character who's, just, there's some thought bubbles in a way that, they just take place in different locations. And so in order to, to do that, to achieve that, the footprint needed to be small and lightweight, and especially like with the LEDs, you don't need heavy rigging at all. Sometimes you can use tape and or magnets or something like that, and it's just really quick. Also because many of the units are now also like wireless, battery operated, so you don't even have to hide cable or worry about that. What I was what I'm coming back to is that I did insist on having a dimmer board operator, a programmer on every day, because I knew that it would help me, move a lot faster, just controlling the lights remotely without having to send a body out there and change something or manipulate it or set something up. It's just wonderful. I mean, it just enables us, I think, to really kind of paint on the fly, changing the intensity, I call it the volume, or changing the color, just until you find a balance that gets you, that is pleasing. Also, you can, I mean, it takes 2 seconds to make those changes. Also, to write lighting cues. There was in the script there were quite a few lighting cues. Baked in, so to speak. So I made my case that we really needed a programmer, and also with the DMX control, it's just fantastic how you can just so easily and so quickly. I mean, it's kind of a dream to work like that. Just seeing on the monitor, seeing on set how things are changing just by just the flick of a button, remotely controlled. It's nice.
Did you operate as well?
I did not operate. I actually stopped operating once I got into TV. I did wanna. I would have operated, but I like operating. I really miss operating. I really do. But I had a very talented operator, Peter Witterhanum. I've worked with him many times before. Also, we wanted to have Steadicam. He does Steadicam, so we just got like the whole package with him. Also, I mean, he's got a great eye. I trust him. He knows my language. Also, spoke with him about it, and also with the other operator. She was great. Becca Venezia. She really brought a lot to the production, with her eye. I knew of her. I didn't know her. I never worked with her before, but I saw some, she showed me her website and pictures, photographs that she took, and I just looked at it, like I glanced over and said, okay, you're hired. No questions asked. I don't really like working with two cameras at the same time. I rarely do. I really rarely do. I would say even this film was probably like 85-90% just single camera, but it helped me, because we had so many locations, we had to, plan our days out so meticulously, down to the minute. I could send the other camera, ahead and kind of like do this leapfrogging where, something would be set up already and just ready to go. So basically lighting two sets, and then you're done with one and the other one is, 80% there, and you just, so that in that sense, having a second camera was great. But yes, I do miss operating. I do, definitely.
That's such a TV workflow, but in a very nice way to kind of maximize your shorter schedule as well.
Yeah, no, it is, and I'm glad that I had that exposure in my TV work before that. I mean, because yes, I mean it's oftentimes TV is like they just shoot two cameras all the time or three cameras. I'm staying away from the three camera projects at all costs. And the second camera, yeah, it's fine. Sometimes it makes sense. When it's a matter of efficiency and without compromising the creative process too much. I find having a second camera can be extremely helpful, but I think just to really design a shot, you just think about one point of view, one perspective first before you start. Hosing down things just for the sake of gathering footage.
Before I open it up to questions, do either of you have any thoughts on what we just covered here?
Two cameras, or
or
the whole
two
thing?
Two cameras, LEDs, technology, operating. We covered a lot of ground there.
Yeah. Sorry, I brought it into a whole started talking about operating. Yeah, I don't. I mean, if you don't have that, like I've worked on a film where we had a board operator. I've had that once, and the efficiency of it is incredible, and if you can have that, I think that's the most efficient way to do it, and with the two cameras as well. It's like being, if you can sort of convince the idea to have two cameras to use to leapfrog and be efficient with it, and utilize it that way, I think it's so smart. Like that's really like a useful way to do it, as long as you don't sort of get, sometimes there's a mindset of we have two cameras, like we have to use them, and so you sort of have to get it in front of that, I think. I don't know if you sort of came across that at all.
What about being forced to use two cameras when I didn't think it was necessary?
Or just once you bring two cameras for efficiency's sake, sort of like having to cross that conversation of, well, why aren't we just shooting two cameras all the time for coverage?
Right. I mean, the best case scenario is that you and the director, see eye to eye, and you think the same way, which I've been, especially on Cappers, I was really blessed with that. Also because, another thing about making a film rather than working on TV is that you kind of like the director chooses you and you choose a director, or you see their work, and it's like an intimate collaboration. Just like Greta said earlier, they carry the project around for many years already. So you have to really be very careful and be very thoughtful in approaching and collaborating that. But then you have one vision. In television, it depends, because there's also television, like miniseries, where you have like the trend is now that you have like one director, directing 4 episodes or 6 episodes, or doing 2 blocks of, like only having two directors on a show like on The Gilded Age. I worked exclusively on the first season with Sally Richardson, and we were just a team, just doing only our 4 episodes. And that was great to work like that. But in other instances, you just especially when you're the only DP, it's a revolving door of directors, and they just come in. You barely know them. You jump in. You don't see the locations. You know very little, and you're kind of like thrown in together and trying, and then you're supposed to, get along and create something meaningful. So it can be very challenging sometimes. I mean, I like it. I like meeting new people and working with new people. I'm open, but sometimes there's no amount of openness can overcome the differences and it's natural. I mean, it's okay. It's normal. I mean, not everybody has the same opinion.
Can I just say one thing about technology, and I don't know if it's technology or it's schedule or what, but I try to bring in producers into the conversation about the needs of the film before it's too late, because oftentimes you get a budget, and whether it's short form projects like commercials or music videos, or it's long form projects like narratives, a budget and a schedule have been made before the DP is even a thought. And so you're sort of working out of a deficit already in terms of what the needs of the project are, and you're wondering, like, who budgeted this? Because I need way more crew, or I need more days, or I need more gear, or whatever it is. So bringing the producer into not just the demands that I have as a cinematographer, but also the needs of the story, so they understand why I'm asking for things. I always find that's an easier way to have a conversation, and then it's easier to prioritize between art department and extra hand power days, so that we can go quicker, and or I need this gear for this shot, but it's, I can't have all of these lenses on for the entire shoot. So what if I, drop down to 3 lenses for the last couple of weeks? That's going to save us some money, so that I can bring on more crew earlier on, so we can start moving faster. I think that's that creative problem-solving stuff that I was talking about, that producers love that. It gets you hired again, of course, because you're not just saving the money, you're saving headaches, right? Maybe it might actually be more expensive, but they're not going to be throwing money at the problem later on when everybody's already exhausted and overworked at the end of your schedule. So if you can have those kinds of conversations about the why of the gear asks, then often, if I'm going to get a set of LED lights that are more expensive than using some cheaper tungstens, but I'm only going to need a handful of people to run them, or I'm going to need less space on the truck, or whatever it is, then you can kind of get them to see. Sometimes they look at just the bottom line, and they're saying their impulse is to just say no, like cut it down. And I think there's got to be a give and take in that.
Let me open it up and see if anybody here has a. Whoop, what? Right? Yes, you're passionate. There you go.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm a major people pleaser, so I'm always like trying to make everybody really happy, and that is sometimes impossible to do when you're a DP, because you do have to, at the end of the day, protect your vision and the director's vision, and so sometimes that means sort of putting your foot down. I always try and involve the production designer. Because people understand like art department needs. I know I came out of the art department, which is a funny way to come up as a DP, but sometimes people will listen to that a little stronger, even though I know that there's struggles with budget and all of that too. But then you can kind of combine yourselves, or the costume designer. I love collaborating with costume designers as well. And then it's like 3 heads against however many producers, and that's a little bit helpful, because you can make trades amongst each other, right? About a location. We're building out a location, but I know I'm only going to see one direction, and that's away from the front door, whatever it is, so we're not going to have to paint this half of the room. What can you give me to kind of to leverage towards the producer in that way? And then, you call in your favors too. If you know that you need a certain lens set, I'm very famous for just telling a rental house, this is how much money I have. Do you want in on this or not? And more often than not, they'll say yes. Sometimes they turn you away and say, we just don't have that on the shelves. We'll have to sub-rent it. But then you go to whoever they're trying to sub-rent from, and you say the same thing.
Yeah, it's kind of what you said before, is just having those conversations really early on and getting ahead of it, and just being honest about the needs and what the vision is. And there will be compromises. There's things that you're going to have to, if something is really important and there's just no way around it, you can prioritize that and maybe take it out of something else. But I think it's just having those conversations as early as possible. And, yes, like the schedule can be made beforehand, but like get on top of that schedule, like as soon as you possibly can, and see, talk to the AD, like, see if it can be moved around, or see if things change, and if you can sort of use that to sort of help an argument or to get ahead of things.
Can I just jump in and say one more thing? Share your shot list. I feel like people are really secretive about their shot lists, but give the shot list to other departments. People will see what you're doing, and they're more likely to say, oh, okay, I can work around that. I think directors and DPs will huddle together. They don't even want the AD to see how many shots they have in the day. But if you share the shot list, people will be able to prioritize and plan their own work. I started doing that on my features, printing out the shot list with the sides. My ACs love it, right? The G&E team loves it. Everybody loves a shot list. And people aren't going to judge your shot choices. I think that's maybe what people are afraid of. I don't know, but...
No, I should agree, and I mean I think so much should be happening in prep, and not enough actually does. I mean prep. I love prepping because I mean it's the time where you're still dreaming, and envisioning or having a plan or envisioning things how they might play out. It gives you a leg to stand on, and of course on the day you can make changes. You see something different, an actor does something a little bit differently, or you see actually a better shot than you had previously seen. It happens. I mean, thoughts are able to change our directions on what we focus on. So it's and sharing actually is very helpful. I mean shot lists, overhead diagrams, or like little stills. Just finding the frames and knowing everything ahead of time, I think helps a lot. I mean, not every director likes to work that way, but if they do, it's you can get a lot done. And I mean, jump on the schedule ahead of time, so you let everybody know what you need or what you think you don't need, because a lot of times there's also moments where you say no, I don't need that. I don't know if I got 3 days with the process trailer for you, and said I don't need that. I'd rather not use the process trailer. And then okay, great.
I could sit here for the rest of the day and talk with the three of you, but I know you have to get to a premiere. So thank you to all three of you for being here. Thank you for all of you for attending.
Thanks for having us.
We're going to do a quick photo for Canon, and if you guys could let Mia get out the door and make sure that she gets to her screening, don't try to huddle around her. That would be really deeply appreciated. Thank you.